Good people, good evening. Happy Monday. I am Julian Virgin. That right there, let's see which way we're pointing. That right there is David Oblas, NFC's CEO, chief promoter, the man in charge. Again, I'm Julian Virgin, your lead announcer and journalist here on NFC Now. This is show number 16.
15? 16?
I thought last week was 15.
All I remember is we had the bad lucky number 13
brother.
like 2 weeks ago. So it's 16?
I thought it was 16 today, man. Y'all let us know what you think what show this is. I'm going with 15. I'm going with 16 this week because I thought last week was 15.
We'll call it 15 and a half.
15 and a half, right? And then by the end of the show, it's going to be 16 completed shows. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank y'all for joining us.
It's going to mess us up for next week. We're not going to
you know what? I'm going to go back. I should always go back to our last show to like make sure I know exactly. But I feel like every week we're either one off or like we're either on point. So here we are. Again, another Monday here with the good people of the NFC community to have another just really dope discussion about things, events, people, fighters, promoters, judges, referees involved with the National Fighting Championship. Happy New Year to everybody out there that is tuned in from the highways, the byways, from the crevices of the internet. We appreciate y'all for joining us each and every Monday. Again, I'm Julian Virgin. That's David Oblas. We have a jam-packed show for you today, including our guy, Shay Taylor, which David Oblas says is strong and cut as effing Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's going to be on our show today.
Hold on, you can't just say that because it makes me look weird. So I gotta I provide Julian a sentence or two about everyone. And ahead of time, I provided Shay as a badass MFer, doesn't fight anymore, but cut, and he's like an executive chef at his own house.
Hey, and yeah, look, I just thought when I looked at the bullet points that you put up, that was the one that stood out to me the most, and I feel like that maybe the people they can relate to that. So yeah, we got our guy Shay Taylor, we got Cam Graham as well as Peter New, who is fighting Cam Graham on this Saturday in Dothan, Alabama. Got a big card, the first card of the year that the NFC is going to be co-promoting with. What's the other promotion that you're promoting on this one?
It's Impact Promotions out of Panama City, Florida. And we're doing Dothan, Alabama, which is about 4 hours from us, but it's only about 45 minutes from them. So it made sense to work with them. Like I've said before, whenever I go into someone else's territory, I'd rather work with the current existing promoter than cause a bad wave. And they're pretty close. They're the best one.
That's real talk. Now, I know you said yes, you worked with other promotions in the past. You've gone up to Tennessee. You've gone down to Florida. Do you have any expectations for this one in Alabama?
I wish I had not done it the week after New Year's. I always remind myself of that with Atlanta, and I kind of forgot about that on this one. Thought it might be a little bit different, but right now, as you're probably noticing, because we're right in it, no one's worked the last 2 or 3 weeks. Like everyone is complete and utter slackers the last 2 or 3 weeks, so it just makes it difficult to get stuff done. I mean, use an example: our doctor is on vacation, the head of the ambulance is on vacation, the athletic commission in Georgia has been gone 2 weeks now. Everyone saves their end of year time till now. So it's hard to get stuff done when you're the first week after January. I don't know if that affects your business at all.
Yeah, no, you know what? This has actually been like the slowest month. This is always like the slowest month of the year for entrepreneurs like myself and generally. You know, it's just like it's a real downtime, but you also notice that a lot of people aren't working. And I feel like for the last 4 podcasts, man, every time you get on, you're like, yo, people aren't working. People aren't responding to my emails. I don't know what the hell is going on right now. And you know what? I can't even knock at everybody because, look, Americans, they work hard. I don't want to say Americans. Like, people in general, they work hard all year. And, if they have an opportunity to take some time off and be with fam, they're going to utilize that because a lot of people, they don't like their jobs. You obviously love what you do, as evidence of all the beautiful knickknacks that you have behind you and all the amazing shows that you throw on a yearly basis, which will be kicking off this Saturday, January 7th in Dothan, Alabama. Was there a name? It's just going to be like Dothan.
Just called a Dothan Fight Night. I mean, earlier we had Chattanooga Fight Night. We had Augusta Fight Night. We had Macon Fight Night. So I think while doing these co-promotions with others, we've just simply called it an area. That way we're not only using the name NFC and not only using the name Impact Promotion. So then this way the stupid people know where it's at. If dumb people see a poster, they know Dothan Fight Night is in Dothan.
That's in Dothan, Alabama. Let's keep it
Our
simple.
crowd is not the biggest geniuses, if you haven't realized that. After
Yeah,
a
I
couple
mean,
of
look,
years.
what you're selling is people getting punched directly in the face, the nose, the head, and choked out. So I don't know if that's that's attracting Rhodes scholars to. But yeah, I have seen that this past week. A lot of things and people have not been at work. I'm actually like really working to gain a new opportunity. I'm really like I love doing this. Like I love talking to people, and I do this all the time, man. But I'm really looking to get like back on the radio. I've been gone off of radio for like the last 3 years, man, and I would really love like my own slot on a weekly basis. Like just producing dope radio. And I'm one of those types, like when I want something, like I'm pulling up on you. I'm pulling up right up on you. I'm not just sending emails. I'm shooting shots. I'm pulling up from three, and everywhere I pulled up to, man, nobody's been there. And so yeah, I guess it's that time of year where everybody's chilling.
I have a buddy of mine on the podcast. He's got his own podcast, actually. Southside Steve. He used to be my ring announcer when I first started off. And he actually got let go by his job at Rock 100 about 2 weeks ago, I think right before Christmas, maybe. And he made another post the other day that he was just interviewing with two radio stations last week. I've texted with him here and there. So maybe to work the back way into you talking about the jobs, maybe we get him on the podcast and see what he's doing, how frustrating it is. And that might lead to him listening to your voice and seeing how good it is.
Hey, well, I would love to have Southside Seas on here, and I think he is a relevant guest to be on the show. I know sometimes we go back and forth trying to figure out who we need on the show on a week, but I think Southside Steve is, especially, I think last time we saw Southside Steve was at the Otis Nixon fight night. Shout out to Otis Nixon.
Not much of a shout out. Still owes a few people money. So we ain't getting.
Look, I was just putting it out there. I wasn't trying to start no drama today. On another note, I know the breaking news for today is that David Oblas has now made the 2022 NFC Award Banquet nominations available. So those in the NFC community and elsewhere can go ahead and vote. And 2022 NFC's Fan Choice Awards back by popular demand. The NFC Awards Banquet will be held February 4th. Where at?
Saturday, February 4th at District. Not sure the time yet, about 4 or 5 p.m., something like that, early evening.
Okay. That's what's up. And then again, in years past, we've given out 2 awards for each category, first and second place, based on your votes by a trusted panel of judges. This year, we're changing it up to a first place vote from fans' votes and a first place from the panel of judges. Again, the fans voting is now open and will stay open until Sunday, January 22nd. A lot of really interesting categories. Toughest fighter of the year, we got toughest fighter of the year in jiu-jitsu and MMA, MMA amateur male, amateur female, pro fight of the year, amateur fight of the year, pro knockout, you name it. We got all different types of things. So I definitely suggest that y'all go over to our Facebook page where that link was just posted, so you can go ahead and start getting your vote on. Get your vote on. Tell your friends and family to go ahead and get their vote on, see what it looked like, man. So I'm super excited for the banquet. I know we've been kind of shooting back and forth some different ideas on how to make the banquet really dope. But regardless of how it's done, just having the entire NFC community in one place, it's going to be a good time. So y'all definitely make sure you get your vote on.
And we'll publicize a little bit more, but there will be a black tie, like we talked about, a dress-up awards banquet, and going to get a big plaque made that day. I don't know. You're allowed to lead it. You're dictate it. Maybe crowd applause, but for the person that's the best dressed.
Indeed. Yeah, no, we'll make it work.
Best dressed plaque.
And, look, I think your boy Lawson McClure is definitely, going to be one of those guys. Don't let Lewis Brewington pull up. He going to step. You know how you like to say, I'm a stepper. We're going to see. I know Jennily's going to have on her Saturday Night Finest.
But do we make rules? Is it only open to people winning an award, or is it open to everyone in the crowd? Because that might cause a little bit of drama there. Is it just if you're in the crowd it's best dressed?
I feel like if you make it a crowd best dress, like people are really gonna be like, I feel like that brings in people that maybe don't have an in outside of somebody that they're coming with. Like that makes them feel a part of it. And I feel like no matter what you do, if you're doing something where you're bringing people together, people want to feel important when they walk into the building. So if you give somebody an opportunity that just likes to get dressed and doesn't really say much, you give them a little shine, they're never going to forget that, and they're going to always represent the NFC.
Do we have to make a male and a female award? Or
I think that would be
we do.
Fair. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But it is 2023, so you might just you might need like a him, they, their, look, and that's no disrespect to the LGBTQ community, but it is 2023, so I don't know if everybody is on the gender norms. But hey, this is your promotion, so you get to pick how you want to do that, David.
Let me run that by my attorneys. But right now, I'm just thinking male and female. let me run it by the legal team. But
you know what? No, this is real talk though. It is 2023, and I feel like, what year were you born, Dave? If you don't mind me asking.
1975.
It's a different world, man. Like it's a different world. Things that y'all said back then, you can't say that in public no more. You know what I mean?
I was born with a wiener, and I still got a wiener. Imagine that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. But look, again, I haven't heard the word wiener in a long time. Now they call it like a glizzy. You know what I'm saying? All types of words. Again, I think it's very interesting the way that you see like trends and just like society change, man. So society's changed a lot. So yes, I do think that we should have a best dressed male and female. And it was a tongue-in-cheek remark. Please don't cancel me. Because look, I'm only here on the NFC podcast once a week, each and every Monday, 7:00 here live on Facebook. We're streaming on YouTube and the NFC Fight Night page. Again, I'm Julian Virgin. That's David Oblas. Again, we have a really dope show today. Again, before we get to our wonderful guests, we just want to encourage everybody to make sure you go ahead and vote for our NFC Awards banquet, which will be taking place on Saturday, February 4th. Did I get that right?
You did.
Saturday, February 4th at District Atlanta. Before we get to our guests, did you do anything interesting for New Year's?
I didn't. I did absolutely nothing for New Year's. I sat home and watched the Georgia game. I didn't want to go out and do what drunk people and this and that. I think I went out to eat like 7:00 and people are already driving crazy. I was like, man, I'm staying off the roads. I'm just going to chill tonight. Plus, I'm a little older, so I don't want to spend all that money and deal with the headache. New Year's Day, met a couple buddies, Tom and Dave Vitke. Went to a brewery on New Year's Day, took the dog out. I think about 6 or 7 girls stopped to talk to us just because of the dog. So Cash did his job. We went to the brewery. They had the food truck, had the collard greens, the black-eyed peas, the cornbread. I still don't know.
Southern caviar? Is it Southern caviar?
I guess so. I guess they're all for money and good luck and stuff like that. I was going to ask Shay about it. I think I saw on I stalk his Facebook stories. And I think he made some of that on New Year's Day.
Fascinating.
So I'll ask him what exactly they're supposed to represent.
Indeed. So shout out to the dog, man. The dog is always like a chick magnet. I think
he did his job.
It was what's that movie with Adam Sandler and the little kid named Julian, Big Daddy. That's how he got the girl. He had the dog at the park, and then he was able to just woo, woo, woo. Shout out to you for bringing your dog out. Your dog is a chick magnet, though.
He is a chick magnet. Yeah.
For sure. Well, I'm happy that you had a good time on New Year's. What a hell of a game, too.
Yeah. What about you guys? Stay in or go out?
No, we stayed in. We kicked it at the house. We were out a little earlier, and then we got back home. Had Sarai stay up to watch the ball drop. But as the ball was dropping, I'm like on my phone too, watching the Georgia game and watching that kick go wide to the left side. And I was like, wow, what a way to bring in the New Year's. This is like the first New Year's in a long time that I was not DJing or spinning records. You got to understand, like that's a big part of what I do, man. But like, again, as I continue to just mature and do other things, man, like I'm getting out of like that realm of spinning records all the time and just more or less focus on what we do here, man. Because I do think that I have a innate ability and unique gift when it comes to just talking to people, and this is a passion. So, this is more or less the focus, and just in this new year of 2023, you're just focused on just having more opportunities to talk into the microphone.
I think you got a comment on Facebook last week by Osei. I think Osei Abenow said something like, "Man, Julian's born for this." So yeah,
I appreciate all the love, man. There's a lot of love that comes from the NFC community, just in regards to what we do here on the pod, what you and I collectively do here on the pod, and just even when I get out there and announce on these shows, man, there's a lot of love, man. Like that is not necessarily spoke of on the internet and wide open, but like, people, they show a lot of love, and that just encourages me to just continue to do it, man, and just completely lean into it. So again, I got to thank you, David Oblas, for just giving us this platform, man. I know I've been asking to be on this pod for a long time. I'm not going to lie. Behind the scenes, I've been asking for a long time, man, because I saw what y'all were doing. I remember a couple years ago, Jenna Lee and I, we were in Hawaii for her birthday. It was October 15th, 2021, I believe. We were in Hawaii, and I remember we were in our hotel room. We were watching you, Jose, and Jesse on the pod, and I was like, man, I would love to do this. And so, now that we're doing it on a weekly basis, man, it's just really just reignited that fire and that passion. And
we were debating taking today off like all the other slackers around the country, but we didn't. We're still here working, entertaining thousands of people here in Atlanta,
giving the people what they want.
The main event in Dothan next Saturday got OG fighter Shay Taylor, bringing everyone what they want. Thousands of people on a Monday night.
And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to welcome the guy that is strong and cut as Arnold Schwarzenegger, our guy, Shay Taylor. Shay, what is up, man? Happy Monday. Welcome to NFC Now.
Happy Monday. Happy New Year. Thank you.
All right, so we got you in the 3 box right now. So if you could move just a little bit, a smidge to your right. Perfect. Just like that. Now we got you in there. Now, is it Shaylicious?
It's Shay Taylor. That's me being funny.
No, I like that. I'm about to say, did your girl call you that? Like, what's good?
Yeah. Shaylicious is a joke. I got that nickname from an old coworker, so it's kind of funny.
Indeed, man. Indeed. So I think a good way to start is, how do you know this guy, David?
Wow. So David and I met back in, when did we meet? So 2006 I moved here. So I guess it would have been 2009.
Your first fight was 2010. So it was before your first fight.
Yeah. So I used to go to Wild Bill's on the reg to watch all the fights when I first moved to Atlanta from Kentucky. And for some stupid reason, I was like, I want to do that. And that became a bucket list thing. And my buddies and I used to watch the UFC fights all the time on TV, and then I got into training and I hit Oblas up, and the beauty of it is I landed with just an absolute stud of a coach, stud of a mentor, and Jeff Bedard, and started training under him, and then ended up at the hardcore gym out in Athens and sparring, and kind of got exposed to a lot of the big name guys that you saw in UFC in the early days, and ended up fighting at Wild Bill's and did it for work. And then from that point on, it kind of took off from there.
Fascinating. So you were back in the heyday, what David calls the heyday, those Wild Bill days.
It was pretty fun. Yeah.
Tell me, from you going there and just watching it as a viewer versus like you actually making the walk into the cage. Was it a ring back then? You said it was a ring, right, Dave?
Yeah.
It was a ring. It
was a ring.
It was a ring, like making that walk into the ring, man. Like, what did that feel like?
So my first walk into the ring, obviously, you can't prepare yourself for that if you didn't grow up that way. And it was kind of an aftermath for me. I didn't grow up wrestling. I didn't grow up in any combat sports. I grew up playing other sports. So walking in there was in the preparation for it, being taught by Jeff and that crew and what to expect or whatever else was huge in my end. But the walk into the cage was just absolutely electric. And the fun part of it is, and I think Dave would tell you this, is, I always use it for a business thing. So I had my clients come to watch. So we always sold massive tickets to come support. And then once your name's announced, and then you guys mentioned Southside Steve earlier, an absolute gem in my world, and we'll probably touch on that a little bit later, but just him announcing your name and then who you're fighting and whatever else, it was pretty cool. So it was really, really, really one of the most electrifying instances of my life from the very first fight.
Fascinating. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we got Shay Taylor joining us on NFC Now. David?
You also, played college baseball or minor league baseball? So you've been on big stages before.
Yeah, so it was very successful in the baseball world, but it's different. I mean, that's a team sport. When you're the individual, the spotlight's on you in front of however many people you've invited to come watch you compete. You're competing in a fight. So if you, pardon my language, shit the bed, then it's an embarrassment for you as a human as well as you as in a business side of it. So Didn't really think that one through until I was in the cage, and then you're kind of rocking and rolling. But it was really cool.
What well, we're gonna hit on your chef part in a little bit because I don't know if you see that I do stalk your stories all
You
the time.
do. I love it. I love it.
I find them interesting. I've actually texted Shay many times on how to cook a steak better or whatever. What was yesterday's? What is the meaning behind the collard greens, the cornbread, and the black-eyed peas on New Year's Day?
So I'm 100 anti that. I've done it one time in my life, and it was literally the worst year of my life, and I will never do it again. So I will never cook that. So last night, what I cooked was
I thought I saw cornbread and other stuff.
No. Last night was a pork tenderloin with a mustard reduction sauce, whole mustard reduction sauce with broccoli and shallots. So totally different than.
Okay. I guess I saw more than one person.
I would never touch that again.
Well, damn, that's out the window then. Shit, I thought I saw it on yours. No. But how did you get into the cooking part of that aspect? Just Julie needs to stalk your page later. I do all the time. But you're not an executive chef. You don't do it for a living, but you're pretty damn amazing at it.
So food's my jam. Food and wine and just culture. So with anything food related and wine related, it's a culture experience. So what got me into cooking was honestly, and it was funny, is leading up to 2020 when COVID happened. The 19th of that year, I asked my family for cast iron skillets, and then we get in cast iron skillets for Christmas, and then you roll into 2020, and now you're stuck at home the whole time. So I just started this researching recipes, researching whatever else, and the cooking game got refined, and kind of went from there. And then it's like every day now you're finding something new, and people are sending you recipes, and people are much better cooks than I am are sending you stuff that you should try and whatever else. But I absolutely adore and love food and the ability to just enjoy what you're able to create as a cook.
There's something about, the process of cooking, because I love cooking as well, man. It's something about like just actually getting in there and just seeing something go from just a couple of ingredients to a finished product where you're sitting out at the table and now everybody's enjoying it. Can you relate?
Oh, 100%. And what I love about cooking is it's an organic movement, right? So like you literally throughout the entire process of you making something, you're able to add and subtract, do whatever else to make it be what it is. And much different than baking. I'm a horrible baker.
Oh, yeah.
Baking is here's a recipe. You got to cook it. If it turns out good, it's great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But and when you're cooking on the stovetop, it's totally different because you can actually make stuff evolve as you're creating it.
Indeed. Shay, earlier you said that the difference between baseball and martial arts is that, baseball is a team sport. Martial arts, if you fall on your face, you got to deal with that, man. What was your record getting into the cage?
So I was 2-2 in sanctioned fights, but I have kind of a unique setting with that. And I'll probably let Dave introduce that. But I should probably backtrack a little bit. So baseball is a team sport, but fighting is also a team sport. But the individual unit is on spotlight the night you're able to compete, right? So it's only as strong. You're only as strong as the people that you trained with, that put into you and invested in you and whatever else. And I had a bunch of the top guys that literally invested in my story and who I am and helped me compete. So it's both team sports, but the onus is on you when you're in the cage because it's one-on-one.
Indeed. And those 2 victories versus those 2 defeats, man, what's the difference between the emotions when you walk out?
Oh, God, man, that's nasty. So my first fight was just pure adrenaline. You did it. It was super successful, super dominant, and then you move on. You have some stuff happen in your life, and then you get back in the cage. So I actually started off 2-0, and then I lost my last 2 fights after that. The second fight was incredibly rewarding for the circumstances that were, I guess, kind of around it. And the last 2 fights were super disappointing in the sense of you trained your heart out, you busted your butt. I literally could not have put more into any bit of training or people that were around me, but that losing sucks, man, and it absolutely rips your soul out. But the beauty of that is you take that and apply it to life, and you're able to take those markers of that disappointment and what you were able to invest and see the shortcomings of that investment, and you can put that into other people. And I guess Dave will kind of expand on this in a minute, but my story is able to share to other people to where man, I was in the fight. I was the man in the arena. I wasn't the guy that was on the sidelines talking about how this dude fell. I was the guy that got his teeth kicked in. I was the guy that did what he had to do and still lost. But still, yeah, I was there. You were on the sideline talking like a soy boy, and here I am going, and there's no comparison.
Yeah. So I will say before we go on, there's a girl that commented on here that said, I'm a bit of a foodie. Tell Shay to accept my friend request. So hopefully that works out to the best and you have a new friend and not a stalker. But yeah, so Shay Taylor fought, what was it? Your first fight, which you won as a normal, capable human being, obviously. And then your next fight versus Joshua Cook, that 1 year lapse, you fought that fight with a prosthetic leg after your motorcycle accident. And I still remember Joshua Cook actually went for a move and pulled your leg out of the socket, for a better term, socket. And it's funny because Blake Grice was actually texting me about that 2 weeks, asking me if I had the video, because he was at a Bellator event with Andy Foster in California. So I sent him the old link to that. But that's what made me think of you, having you on the podcast now. It was a little bit relevant then. But yeah, you fought Joshua Cook and won that fight with the prosthetic leg. I think that made you one of the first 1 or 2 ever MMA fighters in the country to fight with a prosthetic leg. So I guess our question with that, if you wouldn't mind introduce, what happened with the motorcycle accident, how bad it was, how you made the decision to have the leg amputated off and go from there.
Yeah, so I had the motorcycle accident, was July 8th of 2010. I was in ICU for 15 days. And I actually had the opportunity to kind of reflect on this going into the end of last year and where we are today, and just kind of like put things in perspective and write down your goals and what you're chasing and whatnot. So I had the accident July 8th of 2010, 15 days in ICU, 12 surgeries total, and then the amputation, which made it 13. So I ended up having the amputation December 7th of 2010, and just tons of therapy and pain and just crap that has happened between the accident and the amputation. But what's funny is I got to rewind here a little bit. So I got to give David Oblas tons of props. And seriously, man, like you deserve absolute amazing props in all of this. So when I reached out to him, I'm like, hey, man, I know this sounds crazy, but I'm about to have an amputation. I don't know if I can compete again, but if you can kind of hold the door open and let me stage my case and see if I can. So I had the amputation December 7th, 2010. I got my first prosthetic January 13th of 2011. Went in front of the fight board January 21st of 2011. And it was absolute. And I'm so prideful, I don't even have a handicap sticker. So I literally park in the parking deck at the Capitol, crutch from the parking deck to the room, make sure my leg's secure, walk in the room, and I'm in extreme pain. I'm still having to figure all this out. So I stand in front of the fight board for 45 minutes, plead my case of just allow me to keep the door open, and then they did it. So I'm like, hey, man, I don't know if I can do this again or even get back to this. And it's asked to be there. But with that, if you would, let me try, and we'll go from there. So they said, cool. February rolls around. I'm getting stronger. I'm building back muscle. I'm rolling with Bedard. I'm boxing with Jeff Trigg. So like they start to click. And it's like, all right, well, there might be a possibility here. And then next thing you know, my prosthetist is like, hey, man, we can make you a leg that has oscillating feet. We got all this stuff we can do. Never been done before. So then next thing you know, I'm in front of the fight board, like, here's video. Here's what we can do. And they're like, oh, wow. Next thing you know, we go with Jeff Traub to develop a fight safe leg, which had never been done before. And then they're like, cool, we developed a fight safe leg. And then my last curveball was, hey, we want to see you roll at somebody that's a seasoned vet, which happened to be Andy Foster. And Andy absolutely beat the brakes off of me for 3 rounds. Again, I only had one fight. Andy had fought for years. He was much bigger than I was at the time. And I did not expect to get my license. And then after we sparred for 3 rounds, Andy comes back to the crew and said, hey, man, there's nothing this guy can't achieve. So he gave me my license. And next thing you know, we're like, all right, cool, we're licensed to fight. Well, then from there, you're like, well, who's going to step up to fight a guy with a prosthetic leg, right? Well, then that's when Josh Cook, the 3 guys stepped up. Well, Josh Cook stepped up, and he was the 3rd ranked guy in my weight class at the time. Class act, family's class act. absolutely just amazing. And I'm like, I want the best. So let's prove this isn't a fluke. And then we signed on the dotted line, and then we weighed in and we rock and roll.
When did y'all fight?
So I kind of gloss over that every time. Sorry. I had the amputation on December 7th of 2010, and I fought September 23rd of 2011. So I went from 136 pounds December 7th to 185 pounds by September 23rd. Stepped in the cage and was able to beat the third-ranked guy in my weight class.
At 185?
155. So I cut from 185 to 155.
With a prosthetic leg?
Yes. So you can't cut weight out of a prosthetic leg. It was miserable.
I don't remember. Did you weigh in with or without the leg? I don't remember that part.
With the leg, and then you can't modify it at all. So whatever you weigh in with has to be the same thing you wear the next day in the cage, and that was the scenario.
So it was less than a year, or a little over a year.
9 months. 9 months.
It was 9 months between when you got the leg.
No,
got your leg amputated versus step back in.
Yeah.
What was your why?
It had never been done before, number one. Number two is I come from a very humble background, and my family is the hardest working people I've ever met. And it was just one of those things to where, like, I wanted to prove to myself more so than anything that, one, it could be achieved. Two, I had goals I was kind of embarrassed about it at first, which is funny to look back on, that I never wanted to walk with a limp. So I wanted to train myself to be where nobody noticed me in jeans or pants as being different. And that was a horrible mindset back then, looking back on it. And now you own it. And I mean, you very rarely see me in pants anymore other than work. But with that being said, like, it was just it was a God thing where, like, hey man, I'm giving you a platform to truly make an impact. And you were handed a weird deal. But with that being said, like, I know that you're the man that is strong enough to do this. So let's rock and roll. And here we are. And then from that platform that has been blessed to me over those years has been absolutely just astonishing for the amount of people I've been able to I don't want to say impact, but help benefit their life where they didn't have the same mentality that I did. And you're able to mentor them through certain situations. I'm crazy blessed, man. I can't explain it any more than that.
No, I feel that energy as I'm just listening to you talking. Like, a part of me just wants to, like, give some snaps, some claps, or have people drop some love in the comments, man, because just the mindset. I could only imagine, just the type of emotions you were dealing with after losing a limb, just being a able-bodied person the whole time, and then now you're losing a limb. You got to deal with that emotion, and it's for you to flip the switch and be like, hey, I'm about to do this anyway, and I don't care what's going to stop me. Nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to make this happen.
And you've done some motivational speaking in the last few years also, haven't you?
Yeah, I get brought on to talk to especially athletic groups, and then, wrestling teams and whatnot, and then corporations to talk about overcoming mental adversity, and then, like, seeing how something may in your life seem insurmountable. And again, like, I hate talking about myself, honestly, but I've been blessed with so much to share with the world that it's like, you have to do that. There's literally nothing that I can't do that an able-bodied person can do. And I love that challenge of somebody being like, all right, I use golf as an example. So obviously I got one leg. There are very few times where I'm playing golf, if you know anything about golf, you have indexes, where I'm not giving somebody stroke playing golf. And I totally play on that. You got two legs, you got two arms, and I'm having to give you strokes, and I will rip you apart mentally in that scenario. And that's the beauty of where we're at, right? So same thing in life. I've taken the same perspective of overcoming the stuff physically, and you apply it to life where you're going into business and you're formidable in business. And the same thing, like, people can't keep up because they don't have that same mental acumen that God's blessed you with.
With that being said, let me actually show one of the videos of you driving in golf so people can see the one leg. And I'm not going to be a man crush here, but how strong and powerful you actually are.
Oh, 16's right there. Attaboy!
How far do you hit it on average on that?
That one was about 345 yards. The furthest I've ever hit was 407.
Jesus.
Is golf something that you picked up following the accident?
I probably played about 6 months prior to the accident, and then obviously fighting was the first thing that I got back into hardcore, and then after that it was like, all right, I got into golf and it became an addiction. I was lucky enough back in May to represent the United States to play in the Carnes Cup in Europe against the Euros. So it's really cool, and golf's now definitely my passion.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, Shay Taylor joining us here on NFC Now. Shaylicious Taylor. Let me make sure I get my verbiage correct. Shay, it's 2023 now. We just started the year. You said the accident happened. You said July 8th, 2011.
2010. Yeah.
2010. July 8th, 2010. When you look back at Shay Taylor in 2010, July 7th, 2010, man, like how much has your mindset changed since that point, man? And could you have ever imagined, you being this man that we're being joined by today?
So let me ask you to refine the question a little bit. Being the man I am today, in what regard?
In the regard of, I'm sure growing up, you would never thought that one day that your leg would be amputated. That's not something that, we grow up thinking about. It's something, we hear about other people doing, but then it's like, okay, you dealt with that. And through that experience, you've been able to not only inspire others, but now you've gotten into different realms of life. You're doing motivational speaking. Now you're full blown with golf. So like just looking back at the man that you were before this point, could you have ever imagined that you'd be at this point? And just how has your mindset changed? Is that a little more clear?
Yeah. So kind of throw back to my childhood. So when I grew up, I was one of 6 boys in a 2-bedroom house in Eastern Kentucky on a dairy farm. So, we grew up working our tails off, right? So for me to play Little League baseball, I used to walk the roads in rural Kentucky picking up cans, putting in bags out and back. And then my dad would get in the truck and we'd go pick up the cans. And I'd recycle them to pay for my entry fees, my cleats, and my glove, and my bat. That's how much I wanted to play ball, right?
Now everyone just does a GoFundMe. The millennials.
Oh, man. Well, that's the difference, right? So that's a whole rabbit hole there. Well, that being said, that's how I grew up, right? So that mentality was already in me. And then you get faced with adversity. So my senior year in high school, I used to co-opings. You went to school from 8 o'clock to noon. Then I went and worked as a bag boy at a grocery store. And then I went to baseball practice after school to have money to pay for car insurance or whatever else. It was instilled in me to work, right? So now all of a sudden you're handed this situation. Well, the work ethic was already there. It's just a matter of applying it. And the mentality was already there as a matter of applying it. What I never expect was what I took for granted, as I say granted, of just being normal work ethic as other people seen as inspiration. And that's where I'm like, all right, so say I'm in the gym and we're working out or whatever, and you have no idea the battle somebody else is facing daily, right? So I have a physical, obviously, difference when you look at me. There are people that have battled, use females for example. There's females that have battled rape as a child. They've been beat as a spouse. They have all these mental scars that are not physically viewable. They battle the same demons. I'm just a different aspect of that allows them to look in the mirror and say, you know what? If this dude can do it, I can do it. And then maybe come up and talk to me and have conversation. And then able to invest in them and say, hey, listen, yeah, you've dealt a way worse hand than I was. So how can I help you get to where you need to and look at that and overcome? Because what ends up happening is we are a society of comparison where we're on Instagram, we're on social media, whatever else, to where what we think the world tells you is beautiful, the world tells you is strong, is absolutely horse crap. So the fun part about that is those that I'm able to attract and invest in that overcome things, and then hearing stories when they come back to me, it's just so beautiful. It absolutely melts me.
So I'm friends with Kyle Maynard, and for those that don't know, Kyle grew up here in Atlanta.
And they're the same height, by the way.
Yeah, we're the same height, despite he has no legs. We're both 6 feet tall. But he is a quad amputee, basically with born with no arms and no legs. He was the first ever quad amputee fighter. He fought for the NFC for me along with Shay. But he used to tell me that almost being born the way he was almost the best gift he ever had, because it's made him into who he is these days. Kyle Maynard, very wealthy, motivational speaker, traveled the world. People look to him for advice. On Oprah Winfrey, Larry King, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if he had been born as a normal, able-bodied human, he'd just be another guy making 50 grand a year working wherever, Publix or something like that. He says it's the best thing for him. It's a dumb question, but was the motorcycle wreck almost the best thing to change you around?
Dude, I wouldn't say that's ever a dumb question.
Has it opened any more doors for you? Has it been a positive?
No, it's definitely opened up more doors to be a caveat to help others. I was going to be successful no matter what when it came to business and figuring stuff out, because I knew where I came from and I never wanted to be there. And that work ethic was just instilled in me. However, with that being said, I always equate money as being a byproduct of this hard work. Like, I'm not money motivated. I'm not driven by the dollar. I'm driven by success, and the success is beating people. Success is being told you can't do something and overcoming and doing it. And then money just happens to follow that success. What I am so blessed with is the fact that I grew up being bullied. Like, my freshman year in high school, I was 5 foot tall, 88 pounds. I was tiny, right? I had a bunch of health problems as a kid. When I graduated high school, I was 5'6", 130. I graduated college, I was 6'1", 215. I remember the first time you and I ever met, you walked into my office. I'm a 155er, and you literally look at me and say, "There's no way you're a 155er." That was the first interaction you and I ever had, right? So, like, the challenge of going from cutting, which Bedard and that crew taught me how to do, and the advantage you have when you step in the cage. And I was never like a super skilled fighter. I was just too dumb to quit. Honestly, that's how it works, right? Same thing in business. You're just too dumb to quit. You figure it out. But with all that being said, I faced all that bullying. I faced all that being different. I faced all that stuff as a kid. And then now you grow up and you're a grown up and you have a prosthetic leg. I used to go to Walmart at midnight the 4 weeks between getting an amputation in the leg on crutches, just to see how people would look at me, so I could develop this mental strength of, they're not looking at you out of pity. They're looking at you out of, you're a badass. They're looking at you out of, hey man, this guy's rocking it, or whatever else. I had to develop that in myself. So therefore, when I moved forward, it was like that was the thing, and it was never a negative. It was always a positive. And then I remember when we had in September, Yahoo did a piece in Yahoo Sports. So I did a rolling interview, and I think everybody's great. And literally, the interview gets posted, and my phone's dinging at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I look it up, and the first 30 messages were talking about how they hope my leg gets ripped off, I get hit in the head with it, gets thrown out of the ring. It's all this negative stuff on the internet, right? And I'm thinking, like, this is a great feel-good story. But then the internet just comes and does the internet, right? So I go to the gym that morning, and I am just absolutely disheveled. I'm like, should I do that? Should I do that? I start questioning myself. And then I pray about it. It's like, no, man, that's just those guys that are in the mom's basement eating Cheetos, that are losers, that have zero to apply to life. This is exactly what you're going to face the rest of your life. This is just a stepping stone. And then, obviously, again, kudos to you, David, for taking that and running with it and putting it in front of everybody to make it happen, because you caught hell for it too. And I'm beyond thankful for you taking that risk on me. I'm glad I didn't disappoint. And man, I am eternally grateful for you. So I'm beyond appreciative.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's fun. I think we were on the cover of the AJC Sports back then or something like that, and a couple of Fox 5 or whatever. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's fun. When I do fights every 6 weeks, I enjoy stuff like this. This makes it more interesting, to be honest, more of a challenge between yourself and Kyle Maynard, the fight we did with him in Auburn, Alabama, where that's why the whole state of Alabama formed an athletic commission, because some douchebag promoter from Atlanta cross state borders came into Alabama and put a guy with no arms and legs in the cage to fight, is what formed the Alabama Athletic Commission 15 years ago, whatever. So for me, I enjoy these things. Like, they get me riled up and they get me excited to do something different in the cage or the ring.
So the coolest thing about that first fight back was we raised money for Children's Health Care of Atlanta for their camp no limitations to raise money. And that entire place, you could not have fit another person in that arena. And the picture that was posted after that fight, I mean, I want to say capacity like 5,600 or something. It was well beyond that. And we even had a area that we were allowed underage kids to come in to watch me compete that were separate from the group where their parents could bring them because they weren't 18 and above. I have never felt electricity in anything in my entire life like that night. And talking to other people that fought in that card, it was just absolutely amazing, the support. And then obviously we were able to win the fight and then raise money for a great organization and charity. But that was kind of like the springboard for, hey man, if you're able to do this, like there's nothing in life that's going to ever hold you back. And that also carried over to those that were there to watch the fight, people I've interacted with since, and then what we're doing in today's world.
Before we talk about your leg coming off, just want to show the last 30 seconds of the fight real quick.
Cook landing some good shots here, but Shea's coming out with some big punches now.
Cook landed 2 overhand rights there in a row. Shea looking to lock up a guillotine here. He might have it.
If he has this is going to be incredible.
Shea squeezing. Not sure if he's going to get it or not here in half guard. Might be a little hard. And he does! It's all over! It is all over! Shea Taylor picking up a win. 2-0.
Wow. That was incredible.
So what I noticed from that is not only you, but that's Jesse Wable doing the commentary 11 years ago. I think Josh Kozier doing it with him. Blake Grice, the Bellator UFC ref, in the cage is the ref. And then Dr. Jeff Traub, the first one in the cage to check on you. So it's funny looking at a video from 11 years later. But explain the emotions after that fight that you had right then.
So it's funny, it was mixed. The mixed emotions are the fact that he did shoot in on the leg and took it off and thought he won the fight because he took the leg off, which really pissed me off. And it really did. I mean, it absolutely just angered me to, I can't even explain the level of what that looks like, right? But then after the fight was done, there was this need to, all right, that wasn't clean. I needed to fight again to show that it wasn't a fluke or whatever. So then we stepped in a weight class and fought. But then looking back on that video you showed, Blake's gone on to do UFC, Bellator, Abel's doing his thing with matchmaking. It's cool to see everybody's growth inside the industry in the sport.
What were your concerns when he did pull the leg out? How concerned were you? I remember that your doctor had to come in there and pop it back in.
Well, it was my process. So you come out of socket, there's no injury or damage to me. It was honestly an embarrassment. Exactly what you didn't want to happen happened in front of the entire world, because this was obviously a very high profile published fight. And it did exactly that. But then the fun part is I'm glad that we were able to come back and regroup and win, because if it had not won, then it would have been a true embarrassment.
Do you still follow the MMA local scene at all? I mean, I know the NFC community is out there. I don't know if you even are a member of the NFC community or follow it, or if you've gotten annoyed with it, but do you even watch the local NFC fights anymore?
Yeah, I keep up with it. I have a problem with watching all that because then it makes me want to compete again. I'm an addictive personality, and then if that's in my purview all the time, then I'm going to want to try that again. And I understand what goes into that, and I don't want to be that emotionally invested in it. So I do watch, and I come watch the fights if there's a high profile fight like the Gooden and the Usher fight. But that's kind of the extent of where I'm at right now.
Shea, one thing that stood out to me in that clip that we just saw, man, was and I thought it was very interesting the way that you said how pissed off you were at your opponent for even trying you like that, was just the way that your opponent came and picked you up and tried to celebrate with you. That's what I saw in that. But you're saying it was like more or less, bro, get off of me.
Oh, in my head, absolutely. But you can't do that in a scenario because he was trying to show sportsmanship and do whatever. But the vitriol that was shared after the fight the next couple of days from his family online was kind of cute. I'll say cute. So we'll leave it at
his
that.
mom was interesting. I remember his mom. She was interesting.
Yeah. So we'll leave it at that. But the fun part of it, again, is you had the Yahoo article come out and you saw the crap that was spewed there. And then you see that after the fight, and just life's life, man. People people want to try to rip down other people to get to their level and whatever else. And I'm above that. So, but with that being said, him trying to pick me up made me want to punch him again. But you can't do that, right?
Fascinating, man. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, Shaylicious Taylor joining us here on NFC Now. I got to say, man, before we even let you go, it's just been a captivating time talking with you, man. This is not only just for our audience, man, but for me, I'm sitting here just really inspired just by your story and your mindset. Now, throughout our time speaking, you've mentioned a lot of times that this just your life and the things that you dealt with have helped you in business. What is your business?
So I own a consulting firm called Taylor Industries, which we deal in the construction arena, and we're kind of a market disruptor. And we roll in and deal with developers and end users, and it's been absolutely just a godsend. So I started it in October of 2018, so we're a little over 4 years old now. We are to my knowledge, the only company that does what we do in the U.S. So I've been super fortunate and very blessed.
Is that something, you said you have a addictive personality. Is that something that you're addicted to right now?
Oh yeah. Back to the competition side of it, right? So, same thing in the real world, and you add business to it, people kind of do you wrong or try to screw you over or whatever. So you take that same mentality you had in fighting and apply it to business and not necessarily go after that group, but you go after their honey hole. And then what I love seeing is when you're able to upset somebody's pocketbook, you get the feedback. Just as I mentioned before, people going online and just like Cook's mom talking stuff trash. When people talk trash, it means you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Indeed. Have you gotten on a motorcycle since?
No.
Is that a fair question? Is that a
No. Great question. I'm trying to stay off anything with two wheels.
Indeed. My final question to you, man, is your final thoughts. What do you want to leave not only David and I, but our entire NFC community with before we part ways?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I guess I'm just going to revert to a quote. I would rather be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war. So prepare yourself for anything that you think be coming, and that's business, that's life, or whatever else. I'm a big fan of just knowledge and understanding things and being prepared for whatever. So, once you're caught off guard and the scenario presents itself, if you're able to adapt and be well-rounded, then nothing that's presented to you is too heavy, man.
I'd rather be a warrior in a garden instead of a gardener in a war.
Yes.
David?
Do you still train jiu-jitsu or boxing at all? Or are you completely just weightlifting now?
Nah, man, I'm just a fatty that lifts weights.
Schwarzenegger.
Right? That's funny you said that. No, so what's funny is I got into same thing. So, I kind of developed a decent following. So last year, or 2021, I won Muscle and Fitness's magazine's Mr. Health and Fitness. So I was in their 4 pages inside of their centerfold cutout or whatever else, and got to share my story. And it's all from just being physically fit. And in the story where God blessed me with the prosthetic leg, but didn't let you get you down. And it's just been cool to apply that to life and impact a lot of other people, because combat sports is such a niche group of people follow that. When you're doing it in everyday life and you're able to go to the gym and people see you performing, then it motivates them.
I know you said you don't watch NFC that much anymore. What do you at least think of the fighters, the mental state these days, their willpower, where they are compared to where you are?
I mean, I don't know if I can compare that. It's just so I'll go to you familiar with a guy named Sean Ryan? All right, so Sean Ryan was a special forces operator, and he started a podcast called The Sean Ryan Show, and he brings on all these elite special forces guys. So when you talk about mindset and mentality, and I hate to use this word, but I'm going to because it is what it is. And you mentioned earlier about the whole transgender and what you can say, you can't say, but whatever. I'm a pussy compared to what these guys went through and overcame and what they did for the service of our country. And their mentality and the stuff they saw and the just pure evil they saw amongst kids across overseas being killed and literally kids' heads cut off, put on spikes. He interviews these guys, and these guys are able to come on and share their vulnerabilities and do so in a manner of truly tears, opening up. And I look at that and I'm like, that's a man. That's a vision. That is somebody's mindset that is absolutely the 0.0001%. So when you talk about a fighter's mentality, one, to step in the cage, you're crazy if you really want to break it down. Two, to compete at a high level and keep doing it is crazy. At the end of the day, you're fighting a one-on-one where the risk of you dying is minimal to none. But when you're stepping into a war combat zone with 3 guys versus 100 guys, and you're able to achieve your mission and whatever else, that's a mindset. So I have no comparison to mindset. That's the mindset I compare where I'm not even close to, and that's where I want to be. And I would never say anybody has a weaker mindset than myself.
I say that because about 6 months ago, I had a fight at Tannery Row in Buford, and Warren Thompson, not Warren Thompson, Eddie Walker hit me up, and that's the area he lives in. And Eddie wanted to come out and give kind of a pre-fighter's speech to the guys, kind of not only a hype-up speech, but also a speech about later in life after you get done fighting the cage, how to be successful. And now's the time that you guys need to be looking at the business world, either starting your own business or how are you going to make do after your fighting career is over. So potentially in the future, we sit down and talk about maybe having you come out to a fight and give that kind of pre-fight speech to the guys, because I think you have a good way of conveying that as well.
Well, the segue between fighting and the real world is the same. I mean, you're overcoming obstacles, you're challenging yourself, you're challenging what depending on what business you get into. And Eddie's been very successful in the roofing world, so kudos to him and his family and what they have going on. And I love seeing people like that who have exited. Fighters seem to have an identity that surrounds themselves as fighters. Well, when you're able to take that and put that aside and say, all right, I'm going to take that fighter mentality and apply it to business. My identity is my family, and my identity is what I'm able to succeed with my mind versus what I'm able to succeed with my fists, because that's not applicable to the real world. I love seeing that, and that's far and few between. And people think that they're going to, even the UFC, like you get into the payday. There's been several guys from the UFC and the UFC that aren't making tons of money, man. Like that's a hard road to hoe, man.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate it. So I appreciate you making time to come on tonight. I knew during kind of a slow week for us New Year's, I wanted to tell the story about Shay Lissus Taylor, let people see who you are. I think we just got another comment that said this guy needs to write a book. I'd buy it.
For sure. Shay,
I'm actually working on that. You would not believe how hard that is to do, by the way.
Yeah. Before you dip, man, I feel like it's only right that you give us a pounds, man, on the way out.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. There we are.
Peace out, brother. Peace
Hey,
out,
man.
man.
Dave,
Thank you for joining us.
Dave, thank you again, man. You're a rock star.
Appreciate it. See you soon.
Ooh, la la, Rockstar David, huh?
I don't like when I get too much of the props. It seems like all the OG guys give the props and not the young fighters.
Look, you even putting your neck on the line to even promote that fight. That had to be something, especially back in 2011. It was a different world, different time.
Well, I don't know. I think that's my job. When fighters come calling, it's our job to do it. I'm sure there's some promoters that are probably saying no to it, but I don't know. I think being the Atlanta fight promoter, when we have these odd situations, we're supposed to make them happen. Kind of like our next guest, Cam Graham. The opportunity came for the Dothan fight night to put him versus Peter New. We didn't delay for 2 seconds and made that fight happen. Takes 2 to tango, and takes a promotion wanting to do it.
Indeed. Before we get to Cam, man, I think Shay was an amazing guest. I thought he was one of the best guests that we've had on the podcast, man. I thought he was an incredible individual with an amazing story. And I'm sure that you also probably caught a lot of hell for putting on that fight too.
Yeah, I mean, I think 2 of the most talked about fights over the years were the Shay Taylor fight, his first one back. He fought twice with the amputated leg. 3 times with the amputated leg, but obviously the first time back was the one that garnered the most media attention. And obviously some of that media attention was negative towards myself and the NFC. And then they involved the venue, Wild Bill's a country dance hall agreeing to put on a fight with one guy in a ring. So then you got to make sure your venue is part of everything you're wanting to do. Your fight doctor, Dr. Traub, is catching a lot of heat for it. Who's going to be the ringside doctor approving something like this? Georgia Athletic Commission's catching heat. So, it is one of those delicate situations, but I think it's fun. We'd rather have it on our local territory when we have the best doctor, the best athletic commission, the largest venue, the best people working the show. It's something I'd rather have on our show than anyone else's show. So
That's real, man.
I fight for those opportunities.
What do they say? Bad publicity is still good publicity, right?
Yeah, you just got to treat it the right way. Like I said, there's other bad promoters that are probably making it a circus, and we try not to make it a circus. We try to make it the event that it is, and
for him to come back 12 years later, he said in 2011, that's 2023, 12 years later, man, to talk about the fight, the lead up, the build up, the actual fight, man, and just, what you meant to him. What did that mean to you?
It means I'm doing a good job. It means I'm doing a good job. I've always done a good job. This is just recently. I've treated people right for 21 years. There's not many promoters that are in this this crappy field, this crappy feud of asking guys to fight each other in a cage that have a good reputation 6 months later or a year later, let alone 20, 21 years later. You add in the awards banquet, you add in this podcast. We're nothing but positive on this podcast, giving it guys a way to get their personality and their story out. So even 20 years later, still treating people the right way. It might be a job paying people to get in a cage and fight, but it's a job treating people the right way. That's what it comes down to.
Let's go give a fist pound to my man, David. Come on, man, for you doing a damn good job. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to NFC Now, our weekly podcast each and every Monday at 7 o'clock. We just had on our guy, Shay Taylor. Again, I'm Julian Virgin. That is David Oblas. Coming up next, we have a man who is fighting this week in Dothan, Alabama for the heavyweight. Is the belt on the line?
No, just normal fight. Big boy fight.
Just a normal big boy fight. We got Cam, the Big Mac Graham. We got to start off with the necessary questions. How did you get the Big Mac nickname, brother?
I think I've been asked this, 50 million times. It really just started out as when I first started, I was a big kid, man. I mean, I've been doing this quite a while. And I was just a big kid, so everybody called me Big Cam. Because they're like, who's this kid, 15, 16 years old, same size as normal heavyweight? Yeah, so it's just Big Cam. And I was like, I thought, down the road, I was like, man, just flip these letters. Like, fuck it, Big Mac. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed. Now, we've talked a lot about, how people get bullied. Like, we just had Shay on, man. He was talking about how, he was bullied when he was younger for being small. Were you bullied for being big?
Well, see, the thing is, I didn't get big until almost my freshman year in high school. Like, before then, I was actually a small kid. I guess that's when those Big Macs caught up with me. like that's serious, man. I was not that big. I got bullied a little bit as well. I was, different growing up. I was a smart kid. And coming from the background that I came from, I lost my mom at a young age, so I always got teased for that with the mama joke, shit like that. So yeah, I got bullied as well. It was different, but like that's also one of those ordeals. Like, we've all had some type of adversity that has pushed us into mixed martial arts, and that also was one of mine.
Indeed. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Cam, the Big Mac Graham, joining us, man. Now, you just mentioned that you lost your mom. How old were you when that happened?
I had just turned 8. My mother passed away December 25th, 2002, to breast cancer.
And that's something every year around this time, man, that tugs on you, huh?
That's tough, man. That's a tough one, yeah.
Indeed. Does it get any easier?
I'm gonna be honest, personally, no. From a trying to help someone else deal with it, yeah, it gets better. It does, but realistically, I mean, it's just one of those things you have to take day by day regardless.
Well, we appreciate just your sheer honesty here on the pod, man. We've been joined by people who have lost their parents, man, and I'm sure that you just even saying that, just being real about it, man. There's a lot of people out there that can relate to you, man. So thank you again for joining us here on NFC Now and just being so open and honest. You got a big fight coming up this week, man. What's the preparation look like, man? Like, it's fight week. You cutting a lot of weight. You getting prepared. What's the mindset, man? Are you?
Me being one of the bigger heavyweights, I mean, people still look at me like I don't compare to guys like Austin Green, but like I'm still a bigger heavyweight. So I have a few pounds that I do cut, but nothing major. It's just business. Like
this fight happened pretty quick. I know you wanted on this Dothan fight card. This happened fast. I know you wanted on this Dothan fight card originally. And then Peter New's opponent kind of
was first announced, man. When the car was first announced, I was like, hey, don't forget the big guy, man. But I think we went through like looking for like 3 different opponents and stuff always. It is what it is, and now we got Peter, so I'm cool with it.
It is odd how it works out because you just had your last fight for NFC. Our co-promotion is Robert and JD with Impact Promotions, who I know you're extremely good friends with. You fought for them a hell of a lot. I even asked your opinion of them before I signed on to work with them here. So it's kind of crazy. We were looking for you for an opponent forever. That's your hometown now. It didn't pan out, and then it just panned out 2 days ago, 8 days before the fight.
It's crazy.
Your last fight was one of the best heavyweight fights I've ever seen. Have you had time to train enough for this fight?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Because one thing I think most people know about me, man, I don't stop moving. Even though taking the L the last time, it's like you go back to the drawing board regardless. I think that's one thing I'll never stop doing. I'm gonna keep going.
And a lot of people had Austin Green's submission over you. Right now, it's probably one of the top 1 or 2 candidates for submission of the year for our NFC yearly award. What do you think about that? Was it a submission of the year candidate?
I feel like, in a sense, it was because even in his most tireless, which that definitely was his tireless, he went back to basics, and that's what we train in MMA. He went back to basics, and he sunk in something that he trained to do. He got it, and I mean, it's business. If it had been me, I'd have did the same thing.
Again, you joined us with Austin Green a couple months ago, man, on the pod, and I just really appreciated the way that y'all just had just that level of, hey, y'all just talked about it. It was all love. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah, it happened. It's all love. Now, what do you know about your opponent coming up this week?
All I know, honestly, is that he's a light heavyweight. That's really all I know. I know some guys wouldn't even dare to step back up at heavyweight once they've made that cut down, and that's where they fight at. So, he's already got to be a guy I feel like I can hang with because he got the balls to step in there with me as a 2 heavyweight.
Yeah, because stepping in there with a heavyweight, man, you definitely have to have some cojones on you, man. You're fighting this week. And I was just doing a quick. I was on the Facebookies, just doing a little looking around, man. I see you have a beautiful family, man. How many kids do you have? And tell me about your fam.
I have 5 total.
You have 5 what?
5.
You have 5 kids. You got 5 kids, man.
Yeah.
Is that your why?
In a sense, yes, because man, it takes a lot to. A lot of people don't realize it takes a lot to in a sense, be a family man as well as still do what we do because you got to be able to turn that switch sometimes. Like we take it as a, hey, you going into the gym, training 2-3 hours, trying to kill somebody, and then you got to come in and deal with your little girl and teaching your son how to, still be a man, shit like that. That's why I do it. I want them to get the same out of mixed martial arts as I do.
Indeed. That's why I asked you about your mindset, like the week of the fight, man. Like, are you a little different around your kids, man? Is it a little bit more like, are you flipping the switch? Word to my man Drizzy Drake. Are you flipping the switch?
Just don't bring food around me.
You don't have to cut that much weight, do you?
Nah, but it's still it's temptation. Like
Just don't do it. Just don't do it.
man. If you want those chicken nuggets, just keep them over there.
Indeed. Now, you rose your hand to fight on this Dothan, Alabama fight card, man. David said this is your hometown.
Well, I'm originally from Panama City, Florida.
My bad. I apologize. So you're a stone's throw away. You're a stone's throw away, man. Is there any extra emotions knowing that you're going to be fighting close to home? Are you having any family members that still live in Panama City come out to that fight?
I believe there are some family probably coming. Honestly, it's kind of the same for me whether I fight, at home versus if I fight 1,000 miles away, because at the end of the day, I'm going in to put on the show for the fans that are there and the ones that are watching. My performance doesn't change whatsoever.
Indeed. Dave?
Usually I'm in the middle of the negotiations and how our fight comes to be. I wasn't this time. I think I was at Home Depot looking at a shed the other day from my backyard, and JD called me on Facebook and talked to me about you versus Peter and if I'd approve of it and what I thought and stuff like that. So how did the fight even get offered to you, and how did you take it? Like, what was behind the scenes for you there?
I kid you not, man. I got a message from JD, and because we had already been talking about finding a guy for me and somebody who ghosted. And he sent me a message. He was like, "Hey man, you think you cut 205?" And I just started laughing. I'm like, you playing too much, man." I was like, "Man, I'll try to cut as much as possible if that means me." But he's like, "Man, we got a guy, his opponent, same situation." So I'm like, "Bro, business is business."
Was there even any hesitation in you taking the fight?
Nah, I think I signed the contract like 5 minutes after that sent to me.
I think I did see it come through my email within 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's like, hey, it's business, man. It doesn't matter who's in there with me. I respect anybody that does, but I mean, it don't matter to me.
You got 5 kids to feed.
Listen,
you got 5. How was the holiday?
Oh, it's good. It's good. It's actually, it's better.
Indeed. I'm happy to hear that, man. And our hearts are with you. I know like the holiday season is a unique situation for you, man. And then you hopping literally right into a fight. After that big ham was on the table, and then people be having the chicken to spread. We was just talking about the Southern caviar that people be eating on the way into the year, man. So definitely excited to watch you compete coming up this week. Before we part ways with you, Cam, Big Mac Graham, we want your final thoughts, man.
Honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I don't know if he's watching or if he's coming on. Peter, I want this to be a show. That's it. I know some guys are kind of worried coming up to the heavyweight division, like I'm gonna grab you, we're gonna go to the ground. I want to give Dothan a show. So let's give him a show.
Let's give him a show this Saturday, January 7th, Dothan Fight Night, one half of our heavyweight showdown. Cam Big Mac Graham coming with a couple combos. Look forward to watching you compete this week, man. Shout out to you and your family. David, I'm sorry.
I would say one half of the fight, but you're big. You're like 2/3 of the fight. 2/3 of the fight, maybe. I appreciate it, and best of luck. We'll see you at the weigh-ins Friday. I think Friday at 5:00, and then the fight Saturday. First time we've been in Dothan, Alabama. I'm interested in seeing the venue. First time I've been there. First time I'll be there is Friday, the same time you guys are there. I think they have some kind of like pull. What is it called? Like in Vegas, the pool games or whatever. The guy did tell me you can drink and do that, so I'll probably be doing that by myself all night Friday night after weigh-ins. So,
oh man, well, I won't join you for drinking, but I'll be there.
All right. Hopefully they have some money. So appreciate it. We'll see you Friday night.
Yes, sir.
Hold it down, Cam. Cam Graham, Big Mac Graham. That's a hell of a nickname. David, what would be your nickname? Is it Discount Dana?
I think it has been Discount Dana. It can't be Big Nothing. I ain't big at all. It's gotta be Discount Dana works for me.
Discount Dana, David, Discount Dana Oblas.
Yeah, even though I gave it to myself, that's kind
I
of.
like Obleasy.
We're good with Obleasy.
Obleasy. I feel like you just throw on a bandana and start crip walking. Obleasy. My man.
Get my ass whooped. I gotta stay on the good side of Atlanta, or you're gonna send me in for a beating.
Yeah, no, we ain't gonna do that, man. You got the whole NFC community behind you, man. What you mean? NFC Now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Julian Virgin. That is David Obleasy, Discount Dana Oblas. This is NFC Now again. Cam, Big Mac Graham just joined us on the pod. Coming up next week, coming up next.
Yeah, he said he didn't even know if Peter knew was watching or not. I didn't want to tell him that Peter was watching. I see him in the portal. Let's go ahead and bring him in. But yeah, Peter was watching there.
I was watching. Yeah, I am a third. I agree. I'm a third of the weigh-in. So.
I like the beard though. I've never seen the big bushy beard on you in the
past. Yeah, it's the winter cover.
The winter wonderland.
Yep.
So yeah, I was communicating with your manager for the last couple weeks, and then I found out late last week that your opponent had gotten completely AWOL for us. I saw your manager make 100 posts looking for somebody. At the same time, I think the matchmaker JD was communicating with a Cam. So we asked him how the fight came about to him. How did the fight get presented to you, and what were your first thoughts on it?
Same thing for me. I heard. I think it was 6 p.m. Saturday night. Or no, it was Friday night. I think it was Friday night. And then manager Dirk McComas, hardest working man in Columbus for finding fights, because he found something, and he tried a bunch of other people before Cam. So found out Friday night. I was still treating it. I didn't really change anything for me until Saturday night at, I think, 8 p.m. I signed a contract for Cam, and then I started watching his fights. I heard he was 260. He looks about that, so it'll be a different challenge for sure.
What are you, about 220 to 230 right now?
Yeah, I'm about 225, hover around there. Depending on the humidity in Columbus, it's like 225, and then after a good training session, I'm 215. So.
Indeed. Peter New joining us here on NFC Now. Peter, thank you for joining us. Now, we had on our guy Shea Taylor a little earlier. He said any fighter that steps into the cage has a little bit of crazy in them. And I feel like your level of crazy has to just be a little bit more cranked up, being that you're taking this fight against a heavier heavyweight on a week's notice, man. What's going on between the ears, brother?
Just started game planning today, so the gears are spinning. He's like I said, big guy, different challenges. Wherever it goes, it's gonna have to funnel it into my territory, which I haven't seen any. His last fight was a bare knuckle boxing, or it was a boxing match, and then he fought for B2 I think 9 months ago. Wasn't much to watch in that fight, so don't know too much about him. I know he struggled, had a bunch of losses, but he was a successful amateur, so who knows.
Have you checked out his last fight against Austin Green on our NFC show?
No, I didn't see that one.
Okay, if you remind me afterwards, I'll send you a free link to it. But yeah, he went 3 rounds against Austin Green for our heavyweight title back in September or something like that. So yeah, that's fresh out there. And the bare knuckle, I think he also fought Harrison Aiken in a MMA match for us right before that. That was agreed to stand-up only rules. They fought MMA, but they had a gentleman's agreement not to go to the ground, actually. So I don't know if you checked that one out either. But yeah, his last 2 fights were for us, actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'll check those out.
Peter New, you saw we just had Cam on. Obviously very respectful of you, your talents, man. He also said he's looking to put on a show, man. Is that the same mindset that you have coming into the fight?
Absolutely. It looks like he has a good time out there. I plan to do the same. It's definitely going to be a showcase. And without knowing too much about each other, not having a lot of time to plan, it should be more wild. So we'll see.
Want to know a little bit more about you, man. You're based out there in Columbus, man. Is that military?
Lots of military around here, yeah.
And are you in the military as well?
No, I was. I just got out, so that's what this is for. This is
Indeed. Okay, you wanted to showcase what you had, huh?
Yeah.
Are you born and raised
that young? You're still pretty young, aren't you?
Yeah, my contract expired, so got out. The war's over. not much more fun to be had. So found some work for the last few years, doing something that was right up my my specialty, and then got out. So
Did you say you were a contracted spy? Is that what you
no, not a contracted spy. I mean, no, of course not.
Okay. I was like, oh, wow, that's going to make it interesting. I couldn't, I thought you said contractor spy, but I couldn't hear exactly what you said.
No, not a contracted spy.
Damn it.
So did you just get into mixed martial arts, or is this something that you have been doing?
No, my first fight was 12 years ago in Oregon. And I fought for NFC. My final amateur fight was for NFC in 2018, I think. You know, I had 3 times as many opponents the 3 times as many fights fall apart than I was able to make happen the last 10 years between that and work. Didn't have a lot of activity. But now that I don't have anything holding me back, I'm trying to fight as much as I can.
And what is your why? Like, what drives you to even like want to step into the cage and fight another man?
That's the ultimate form of competition to me. You know, the least amount of rules. Never, one of my favorite sayings is you never see a basketball game break out in the middle of a fight. So, you know, that tells you something about what a fight is. A fight is at the base. It's like what things go to when everything goes to shit. So.
When you were younger, were you a fighter on the playground, in the backyard, in the bathrooms of the school? Like, you know, how'd you get down back in the day?
No, I was a good kid. Played a lot of sports growing up, so you know I got the aggression out that way. Didn't have to let it bleed over into school. But yeah, it's something I sort of realized in college that you know everyone has a fight in them, and I found mine, and you know I started doing it for self-defense really in Portland, Oregon, at a small little dojo, and realized I didn't have a way to test the skills. You know, self-defense is not something. It's not a duel. It's not like a fight where we're gonna put our fists up and start going at it. That's like you know life or death. So I found the best way to test the skills was in MMA, and it just took off from there.
Fascinating, man. Fascinating. What are your parents behind what you do? Do you have family that like, you know, encourages this path that you're on?
They're coming around to it. My mom is, I think she might like watch a few clips from the fights this time. She's eventually gonna like have to realize that it's not gonna end. But yeah, family's definitely supportive. Like I got a cousin who's definitely supportive, and they're in Oregon and the West Coast, so they watch it online when they can.
How much of a different lifestyle is it from like you know going out there in Oregon to coming out here to Columbus? That's a big jump.
Yeah, I've been out in Georgia since 2012. I lived in Savannah for 8 years, and then I moved to Columbus for the last 2.5. So I've gotten used to it. The humidity is something else. I would much rather have the hot and humid than the constant drizzle and 50 degrees in Oregon. That's kind of one of the reasons I left. Lots of rough memories playing football Saturday mornings just in a downpour. But I miss the family. I was out here for work, so looking for the next option will maybe include a change of scenery. But I can't beat the climate out here. I actually like the humidity. I'd much rather have that, like I said, than having to carry an umbrella everywhere and worry about 6 inches of rain every day.
David?
Looking at guys' records, I'm always interested on which promotions they fought for and comparing them. And looking at your record on MMA.tv right now, you're one of the only guys I've seen that's fought for a conflict, which is one of my good friends, Jared Williams, Fight Lab in North Carolina, Mike Allen and Kenny Letts. You fought a few times for NFC and you fought for B2. So it's kind of like, in my opinion, the 4 best promotions of the Southeast almost. What's the experience been like for the other guys, Conflict and Fight Lab?
Man, it's such a long time ago. I mean, my first fight with Conflicts was almost, I think it was 9 years ago. That was, great guys. Never had any problems with promoters or organizations. Like, took care of me all the time, took care of my coaches. NFC, it's kind of unique, it seems like, because it's much more of a very much Atlanta show. Whereas like B2, Conflicts is Southeast, but B2 is kind of all over the place. But NFC kind of has the Atlanta market, which is fun because you can kind of get matchups and unique matchups just because you just pair people up who want to fight and they go at it.
Have you kept in touch with, I'm trying to look at him right now, Carl Williams? You fought him in your second pro fight, and he's obviously now in the UFC. Didn't know if you've kept up with him or watched him at all, or even talked to him at all.
I haven't talked to him. I saw his Dana White's Contender Series fight. It looks like he's made improvements since we fought. He was much stronger on his feet. I mean, I just seen the stats on paper. As a D1 wrestler, I think for Penn State, he had a significant weight advantage, and Carl manhandled him. So I mean, he's very strong. I mean, I found out that the hard way, catching the earth with my body. But he was very. It looked like he'd refined his skill set quite a bit more. So it's going to be exciting to see how he does in the UFC.
And when you see somebody like Carl, a former opponent, man, just, continue to progress, like, do you root for him?
Yeah, I think I do. I think you share something when you fight someone. So, I know that he's game. It's one thing to see it on TV. It's another thing to experience it with somebody else in the cage. So there's a mutual respect there that I think I'll have, and I'll continue to watch him, enjoy watching his progress.
I love that mindset that you said, like, he's game, and it's like it's a mutual respect. Could you go a little deeper into like that trade-off that you have when you actually get into the cage with somebody?
Yeah. It's easy to talk and way easier now because of social media, and I can run my mouth and talk shit to whoever I want. But then when you got to put it on the line and actually go in there, you see what someone's made of. Fighting someone is one of the two best ways to get to know someone. The other one's probably drinking with them, in my experience. So you get to do one of those, and then afterwards, maybe you get to the second one. But it's a very visceral moment. I remember him taking me down, trying to get back up, eventually get back up, him taking me back down, and to have two people exhausting themselves and skilled, developing for a long time, that they've been coached, a lot of energy and effort's gone into the skills they developed, to have those come to a head and to, like I said, the least amount of rules possible, put it all on the line. There's really nothing that's going to reveal something about a person more than that. So I think I know Carl Williams well, even though we haven't really talked a lot. I probably know him better than most people just for that reason.
I absolutely love hearing like that level of analysis on a fight, and like the I don't want to say those are emotions, but those are for lack of a better word, those are emotions that y'all shared and experiences that y'all shared, that like somebody like myself or David, who's never been in there. David, you have been in there, but I'm saying like somebody like myself who's never been in there could actually speak on, and it's something completely foreign to us, but you're giving us an insight into, the exchange that y'all are having in there.
Yeah, it's special. And the people are going to help you improve the most, the ones going to pick you apart and beat you. So I learned a lot from that fight, and I took those lessons going forward. So I can, thank my opponents at all levels from 12 years ago for the lessons that I've learned to make myself better. And that goes as well. With people who catch you in something, those are the guys you're going to learn from. And it just hurts a lot more after the fight. My last one, that one stung, getting knocked out like that. But I think it plants a seed, and I think there's a difference between people who let that seed go to waste and never get back in the gym, or they like lose motivation, lose energy, and people who just water it every day. And that's what I decided to do after the last fight, and I think I'm going to put it on display for this one.
When we're looking at the NFC and the Southeast level or the Atlanta level, are you actually more excited that your new opponent is Cam Graham? I mean, he is a bigger name in the Atlanta market. He's fought for NFC. He's fought for other promotions around here. If I was you, I would actually be more excited now, because more people, if you win the fight, I think more people in Atlanta are gonna recognize that you beat Cam Graham.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't know too much about him. I've had 48 hours, I think, to look at his stuff. Haven't done a lot of research into him as a human, which doesn't really matter much to me, because we're going to go in there and throw down regardless of, what is on the line for him versus what's on the line for me. But once you get in there, it's really about executing, and it becomes, for me, it's not emotional. It's executing the things that you've learned. It's all the work's been done. So still got a few more days to prepare, a few more changes to make. Preparing for the other guy who ghosted. It was a different sort of strategy because we're about the same size, and was definitely trying to look to take it to the ground. Now it's going to be difficult to get this dude down. So that's probably not going to happen. But we'll see. I got a couple more days to work with the coaches, and him taking on late notice. Who knows what kind of things that he's done to change his game if he's into training, and like what he's going to bring. So like I said, it's going to be a little more wild because we both
Peter New joining us here on NFC Now. Peter, you just mentioned earlier that you don't know what's on the line for him versus what's on the line for you. That does open the question, being that you are coming off of a knockout loss. What is on the line for you as you step into the cage this Saturday, January 7th in Dothan, Alabama?
It changes it, but it doesn't. There are certain things that I'll think about more as the fight comes up. But like I said, once we're in the cage, it's just execution. A little more of a, like you mentioned with Cam, having more weight behind his name. Try not to really think about that. It doesn't really matter. It's a tactical problem. And like everything, it'll be strategic building blocks throughout the week, and then it'll be a tactical problem on the night of the fight. So I don't think about like what's on the line. I just go out there and throw down.
You can definitely tell you're in the military. We're in the military. You got very military type answers there that I wish everyone
for sure.
was,
I was thinking the same thing, David. As he was mentioning that, I was like, yo, this dude is military trained for real. I like that.
I was telling Julian earlier, for me doing this Dothan fight night, a lot of these Dothan guys, I don't know how to say this correctly. A lot of the Alabama guys don't know how to sign an electronic contract, don't know how to return my emails, don't know how to take a photo of their driver's license and send it to me, don't know how to fill out the Alabama Athletic Commission form online. These are these simple things I'm trying to get these fighters to do, and you'd think I'm trying to get them to build a house or something like that. So, yeah.
Whoa, yeah, it sounds like an Alabama problem, Mr. Oblas.
It is.
What you can do with that? It sounds like a whole state issue.
Yeah, the answer is not promote too many more fights in Alabama till I buy them all iPhones and they figure out how to do this
It
stuff.
sounds like we need to have a little technological update, and then you can get back on.
And NFC's coming back to Atlanta very quickly.
Sounds good.
I mean, but we could say this: once Peter New puts on a show this Saturday, I'm sure a lot more people from Dothan, Alabama, are going to want to see Peter New and Cam Graham fight. So we definitely look forward to watching you compete this Saturday. Before we part ways today, Peter New, we want your final thoughts, man. What do you want to leave not only David and I, but our NFC community with today?
I hope everyone enjoys the show. First fight of the year, so it's going to be a good one. And yeah, you'll get your money's worth.
So get your tickets today at nfcfighting.com. That's Peter New, going to be fighting Cam Grant in a heavyweight showdown. I know we said you were 1/2, but I know David joked and said you were maybe 1/3 of the fight, man. But definitely look forward to you stepping into the cage this Saturday night. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, David.
Thank you, man. See you Friday at the weigh-ins.
All right. See you later.
Felt like a couple times I cut you off that time. I apologize, David.
Hey, I liked his answers. Very military-like. I wish all the fighters were that easy to work with.
Yeah, no, he was real, just like, boom.
I wish he said tactical spy. I heard tactical something. I don't know what, but I thought that was going to go into a 20-minute story about hearing.
Yeah, I did hear that. I'm not mad at you for like following up on that because I did hear something about a tactical spy. It was like so I'm not mad that you said that. I feel like it's only right. Again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to NFC Now, our official NFC podcast, where we cover everything regarding the fighters, the events, the people that have anything to do with the National Fighting Championship each and every Monday. Here and only here, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and other platforms, wherever you find your pods. We're now starting the new year, right? We've been doing this pod. This is show number 15 3/4, maybe 16, however you want to count it. But it might be a good time, man, before we close out today's show, man, to talk about just like recap like NFC Now, maybe like give out our NFC Now awards. Like, just from the pod, you know what I'm saying? Like, who's been just after all these times we've been on the pod and after all the guests that we've had, man. I don't want to say the best, but somebody that's like stood out to you the most, or like, it's been like a really interesting dialogue.
So, I've got a horrible memory. I don't know if you know this about me. I write everything down. So as we're talking right now, I'm writing things down. Best dress, best walkout, Hall of Fame, whatever. That's what I do. I always got notepads. But I will say, and I hate to give another promoter credit, but I can give another promoter credit because he's not an Atlanta promoter. But I'm going to let you say his last name. Mitchell
Chamali.
Mitchell Chamali. I like the guy. I think he's a great promoter. I think he's a great business mind. I think him and I are completely different, but I thought the pod with him was engaging. He had a great personality. He's boisterous. He's loud with his opinions. He doesn't give a shit if he offends people. I thought for me, I think it was Mitchell just because I was talking to another promoter out there.
You know what? I think that's a really good choice. And I like Mitchell too, man, because he had a contrasting opinion to yours. And it was all respectful, but it was like still like we had two different sides. And I feel like whenever we're having discussion, it's always good to have, one perspective and then another perspective. And then everybody comes together and it's like, all right, cool. Like, look, we can agree to disagree. It's a great conversation. I thought Mitchell Chamali was an incredible interview. Now that you said that, damn, you may have just like, you may have took the cake on that one. You got me thinking. I'm over here thinking.
I think it's different also because if he had a podcast in Florida, I'd probably be able to go on it as a guest, as an out-of-state promoter, and talk just as much shit as he did and offend the Florida fighters and be boisterous. But here in Atlanta on our own podcast, I try to be a little bit more reserved. So I think it's also changed a little bit that we're the hosts and he was the guest, and we were firing off questions at him. So I think that changes it a little bit in that aspect.
I think it did. I feel like you do keep you do a damn good job of like, keeping it real. I would say it's you give the people about 75% of David, versus when we're on the phone, man. You'll give me 100. You'll let me know how you really feel about some certain things, man. But
so who was yours? Who did you like the most?
You know what? I'm thinking back on like all the pods that we've had and people that really stuck out to me. Something that just came up to mind was the second time we had on Doug Usher after the fight. I think, when I was strolling through my YouTube and just seeing like some of the stuff that I put up, man, like, we talked to Doug Usher for 51 minutes that day after his fight. Like, and it was he talked emotionally before the fight, but like after that fight was over, it was like a different connection, like that Doug Usher the second time around was like it was a really powerful interview. I enjoyed talking to Trace Harper a couple of times. I know we talked to him twice, man, that, I think we've had Trace on 3 times, if I'm not mistaken, before his Ryan Kimbo fight, after the Ryan Kimbo fight, and, a couple weeks ago when we talked about his mother. Trace Harper definitely stood out to me. I'm trying to like you. Chamali was amazing. Chamali was really.
Well, I got a second place.
Really
My
good.
Second place was last week, actually. Dr. Chris Horotsky, Doc Chris, and Dr. Traub was the original guest, and hopefully Dr. Chris doesn't see that he's not the original guest. You're my second favorite Dr. Chris. But Dr. Horotsky, I thought was amazing last week because he's a black belt. Dr. Traub has the slogan, "If you can break it, I can fix it."
Yeah.
Dr. Chris has a slogan, "I will break it and I will fix it."
At the same damn time.
Yeah, he'll break your arm right there in training or fix it the next day in surgery. But it was amazing hearing about him talking about the cuts, where he stops a fight, when he stops a fight, what he talks to the fighters about. I think you asked him what you talk about with the fighters right when you go in the cage. And it was interesting hearing his answer on that. And he talked about, he can sometimes see what's going to happen because he is a black belt. He can talk about the Kimura, how bad you can let it go on your arm or stuff like that. And Dr. Traub called me the other day because Dr. Traub was in New York City last week on vacation. And I talked to him yesterday. So that was Sunday yesterday. And I was telling him about the Dr. Horotsky, and he was asking me how he did. And I was like, man, he actually did amazing. I was like, he had good lighting. He was well-spoken.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a lot of interesting answers. And
even to like, you know, his Hungarian background.
How has changed his last name? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dr. Trop joked almost. He's like, well, shit, when I come on, I don't know if I can live up to those expectations.
Yeah, it's gonna be he's a tough doctor to follow up on. I'm not gonna lie. You know, when he first came on, I was like, damn. Well, you got, you know, Dr. Trop Jr., not Dr. Trop Jr., but you know, it's like, you know, you got the second place doctor on, but like he did an amazing job. I would agree with you on that one. Yeah, he was super fascinating, especially with his background in jiu-jitsu. And I will say, it's always good to have somebody who's willing to talk, and like, instead of us having to try to, like, you know, pull teeth, you know what I'm saying? There's some of these guys we do have to pull teeth on, and it's like, well, damn, give us something to work with. But like, he was somebody that like was very open and forthcoming. Now, got to give it up to another person that we had a really good conversation with, our guy Cody Durden.
Yeah.
Cody Durden, our dialogue with Cody was cool. He came on with no shirt. He had on the shades. You know, he was talking his SHIT per usual. I enjoyed having Cody on. I just went through Louis Brewington. Yeah. That was a good conversation.
He was emotional.
It was emotional. You know, at first it was funny because he was talking about, you know, the fight with Wesley Sullivan and X, Y, and Z, and then it got into like, you know, the real stuff, and like that was one of those where it was like, whoa. And you know, then you have people like, you know, I thought one thing about Lewis, but at the end of this, I think a whole different thing. You know, that was a beautiful one. Having Lawson McClure on was dope as well.
Yeah. And for me, it's interesting because you're more of the new age fan and the new age NFC employee, where you weren't around 5, 10, 15 years ago when we talk about Wild Bills and Cowboys and all the other things that happened, the duels between myself and other promoters. So it's always cool for me when I have on these OG guys, not just to tell the stories to you, but to tell the stories to our thousands of new fans as well, because not everyone was around at Wild Bills. Like, even when I talked to Jamar Whitehead, I used to sneak Jamar Whitehead into Cowboys when I did fights because he wasn't 18. And Jack May, I used to sneak Jack May in underage up there. Even with his dad, most of the times I had to sneak in the back door. So when I used to tell Jamar about Wild Bills and having 3,500 people in there, you know, these guys can't even imagine what we used to do back in the day. And the sport has changed so much. You know, we're not hitting 3,500 anymore, but the social media of what we're hitting these days, and the Instagram and the Facebook and everything else like there, has a larger impact than what we used to have at 3,500 people, just a greater wingspan than back in the old days. So it's kind of weird the way it's all changed over the years.
Yeah, man, it's fascinating, man. Just, you know, just even as, you know, the new guys like myself has come along and generally, and you know, just the new era of NFC fighters, employees, and X, Y, and Z, man. It's like to have that OG like a Lawson McClure be able to come on the show and tell the story, and like, you know, have his opportunity. And like my favorite part about journalism is getting people. My journalism professor always told me this. He was like, you know, when you interview somebody, man, you're basically telling them that they matter and that they care, like that what they do matters to this world. And like when you see people like feel like, you know, I'm sure when people get that email from David Oblas, like, hey, man, we would love to have you join us on the NFC Now pod tonight. You know, we love you to be our guest. You know, people, they get excited. It's like, oh, man, let me get my lights. Let me make sure I'm good. You know, people be a little nervous, but it's cool to like break that third wall and like talk to people and, man, and just have that emotion. And, you know, I enjoy doing it, man. I hope that this platform can continue to tell those stories of those that are engaged with the National Fighting Championship, have these fighters and other people have an opportunity to tell their story, and like for us to get to know them. And like, yo, to you, because I know this is what you really like have some fights get made on the pod. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Steve asked Cam and Peter a minute ago. I didn't even know how that got started. I was in the Home Depot parking lot looking at sheds when I got the call that Cam Grammer's fighting Peter New. So it's kind of weird how these things get made. And I haven't really talked to Cam and Peter about it. So it's interesting for me asking them, how did you find out you guys were fighting each other? So yeah, I
think it's dope, man. And like, you know, I'm even thinking like, remember when we had TJ Holt and Travell Miller on the pod beforehand, and it's like, yo, this is the top dog title, and it was respectful. It wasn't disrespectful. You know, we wasn't throwing no kerosene on a fire, but it was also like, you know, look, I want to fight you, you want to fight me, we gonna fight. And it's like, that's what, like, when we come to the building on fight night, everybody's like, yo, like, we got a fight on our hands. And so, man, like, super, you know,
I'm looking at what the show's been. When we started off, it was me and you in my living room against the white wall. Then I had I had Aaron Barnett come over and we laid the wood paving there, and we did it from there. I had to lock my dog. I think I left my dog on the couch. He didn't cry much when we were in there. But then when you started doing your house and I was in my basement here, and now my dog would cry all the time. So now I got to lock him in my bedroom. I lock my office door. So there's 2 walls between us because you and Jenna Lee would tell me you could hear him crying in the background. And I don't want to say where Jenna Lee and your daughter are right now, but they're locked in a room while you do the podcast.
They are.
So yeah. People don't know what we go through.
They can come out now too. I think it's time. Is it time for us to show
I think it's almost time for the daughter. It's almost time.
It's almost time, man. But you know, I think the evolution of the pod. And when did we start? Did we start in like October? Did we start in August?
Whatever 15 weeks ago was. So was that about 4 months ago?
True.
So about September, probably.
Yeah, man.
August.
We started the pod, and I just think one thing that we have been is consistent with this, man. And I feel like just on a real level, just on a real man to man, and just man to woman, whoever's out there listening, man, that's one of my biggest flaws, man, is just remaining consistent, man. So I just gotta shout you out for just always just being here, so we could do this pod on a week to week basis, man. And so this matters to me. I'm always excited for Monday nights. I know my dad is excited for Mondays. Jenna Lee be excited for Mondays, and just from the feedback that we're getting from the pod, man, a lot of people are excited for the NFC Now pod, man, and I think it's dope, man. And I feel like we've told a lot of stories, had a lot of really interesting guests come on.
Lady Bree, Lady Bree hasn't done anything in a year or two, and we brought her on for 30 minutes and told her story.
Had Lady Bree on. Yo, shout out to Jesse Wable. I feel like Jesse Wable's been on the show more than anybody, but like having Jesse Wable on, man, on a week-to-week basis, man, just to give us his insight behind some of the matchmaking. Because, again, I'm a fan of the sport. I'm a fan of the promotion. I'm a fan of the fighters. And, just talking to Jesse about some of the fights that are being made, I'm like, can't wait for that one. I'm excited. So, man, Jesse Wable's been on the pod. Man, we had Brantley Furr on here.
You made Charlene get on here at 10 o'clock.
Charlene hop on the pod
with no notice.
I'm saying, like, Northside Nate. We had my man. I gotta give credit to White Iverson, my man Drew Finchin. That's my boy. You remember he got on because he sold the most tickets. We knew nothing of him. I knew nothing about him before he hopped on our pod. But by the time he was done, man, it was like, it was fam. Until this day, me and Drew talk all the time on IG, just about random, like the New York Football Giants who made the playoffs. Let's get it. But it's just little stuff like that, man. We're able to just form these connections, man.
And I will even say we've got a North Carolina fighter, Drew Ball. He's fighting for us upcoming. But Drew Ball's trainer is Spencer Fisher from North Carolina. Fought a hell of a long time in the UFC. And Drew Ball messaged us saying Spencer wants to get on the podcast. So hopefully we'll have him coming up. I want you to check out a new podcast. I've been talking shit to them called The Wild Hour in South Carolina. It's 2 guys, Coach D and Chad Burns. They do a really good job. They were around years ago with 864 up in South Carolina, and we would talk mad smack all the time, but they've taken some time off, and I think they just did their first podcast back yesterday, and it's about an hour and a half. I checked it out. I talked shit with them, and I think it'd be pretty dope. They love doing South Carolina versus Georgia. Every other word out of their mouth is South Carolina versus Georgia, because it used to be pretty heated years ago in our matchups. But I think it would be pretty dope to do a Wild Hour versus NFC Now podcast where the 4 of us are on there just swapping stories.
They don't want none of the pod mode.
You versus Coach D would be fun to watch. Trust me. He's
Coach D. I thought it was Coach Eddie. Who's Coach Eddie?
Coach Eddie.
That be on Facebook that was trying to match up Shamel and the other dude that already fought. And you were like,
that's Coach D.
That's Coach D?
That's Coach D.
I think that'll be interesting too, man. I'd love to get on the pod with him because, again, I respect what he does, man. Because, when we first started going to the fights, you know who the only other person out there with a camera was?
Was it him?
Coach D.
Yeah, he came to a few of my fights back in the day. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I would always see him. He would have a camera. He'd have his backdrop. It wasn't well lit, but hey, he was out there asking the questions and giving these fighters an opportunity to talk their smack, man. And I think I feel like that is important.
When I didn't like him, I used to call him Coach D's nuts all the time. That's when him and I were feuding. He was Coach D's nuts.
Coach D's nuts. Now you sound like my stepdad, man. That's all he would say. He'd be like, Julian. I'd be like, what? He'd be like, D. I'd be like, D what? D's nuts. I'm like, God, dog. That's crazy, man. But yeah, I would love to be on.
We bring him in. I think it'd be fun.
I think it'll be dope, man. I would love to have him on the pod. And talking about some of the really dope guests, man, I gotta give it up to our guy Shay Taylor. Yeah. I thought he was an amazing guest. I thought he was an incredible guest. I thought Shay was an incredible guest, man. So word. Look, Crystal Pascal said Shay is incredible, and I agree. Yeah. And so shout out to all of our guests who came on today's show. Shout out to everybody who tunes into NFC Now on a regular. Thank you to the entire NFC community. I gotta thank my crew on this side of the aisle. My girl Jenna Lee and my daughter Sarai for just making sure that I look good and everything's up to date. On this side, gotta thank the guy in charge of this, our man David Oblas, NFC's chief promoter, CEO, and look forward to a really dope year, man. I'm happy we can kick off the year while everybody else is sleeping, not doing a damn thing. We still up here working, giving the people what they want on a Monday. We'll be back next Monday recapping Dothan Fight Night and getting y'all prepped up for next week's fights. It's only right that we bring in the one and only So. Hey, say what's up, baby.
She laughs when you laugh.
You laugh and
she laughs.
I eat the cookie.
Yeah, you eat some of the cookie? Yeah, we got some of the cookie, but you have to say bye-bye to the people. Say bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye. Peace.